cute baby pictures, awesome sweet selfies, or for telling your story to families. If you check out that picture, it's really cool with the selfie stick. It's solid. Selfie stick in the mirror, kind of lost the point. Alright. It is nice, but for our purposes today, we're given that as the best answer for this is to tell your story. Big Timer's still leading the way. Twitter is. Great for communicating families, full of hashtags, instant professional learning. That little bird picture on my phone. Ooh, we have quick answers that time. Nicely done. Big Timer. We have something closing the gap though. Uh-oh, this one's a little trickier. Pick stitch. Ooh, we know pick stitch. It's for quilting patterns. Is that memory game, straight lines picture sharing, or just what? Nicely done. And lastly, text messages. Come from my kids all day, or not fun when you get stuck in that never-ending group text. Can help determine walk-through patterns, get you out of your office. Nicely done. All right. Big Timer, you held the way the whole way through. I wish I feel bad. I should have a prize or something. I think there's some really nice wristbands. These guys stand out here. All right. So let's pull this up. Can you hear me all in the back all right? Are we good volume-wise? Okay. So basically what this is a session on just so you have a smartphone. And I'll go into a lot of details. And this isn't going to be a crazy complex, like you've probably walked into some today, and they're like, have this app, have this app, have this, that, and the other. I'm really talking about what you have pretty much on your phone already, and how it can make your day more efficient, okay? Things you can use, tricks you can use, things that we do at the school we're at that allows us to work through some of this, and the smartphone to be an efficient device to help you get out of your office. Okay, I don't know what our primary audience here is. The point of this was to hopefully be talking to leaders, school leaders and stuff, to get you out of your office and become visible within the school. And using this device to help you do that. It's not the ones on the end, although that Nokia was pretty sweet. I think a lot of us probably had it at some point in time. It was a great phone. I always think of it, my first year as a principal, this is my 9th year being in an administrative role. And I remember vividly still my first job. I was at a middle school. I walked into the principal's office and he gave me a purchase order so I could go get that device on the right. Do you remember that device on the right? The Palm Pilot, right? So I had the Palm Pilot in one pocket because that was for my schedule. I had the high-end LG phone. You could see the text messages on the outside in color. It was really fancy. And then we had the district, voice-to-talk phone that we had on our belt. So we're all walking around. You had to have a solid belt to get you through the day. And those were all things you were carrying around with you because you had to have all those purposes. I see a lot of nods because a lot of you remember that. And then it just started becoming, how can we get rid of carrying all this stuff around? You ran out of room in your pockets. So I think it's kind of funny that somehow we managed to carry all those, but it's still not as efficient as what we're going to be looking at. Now, one thing within this, I am not going to be someone who promotes insane use of your smartphone. But what I am going to do is maybe have you think about how you use it now, how you could use it, and maybe break some of those patterns or some of those things that feel like, oh, I shouldn't be doing it right now, or I shouldn't be using it right now, and having that shift in your mind. Because a lot of times if we just make those shifts, it helps. This is kind of funny, we'll see if it goes along. This isn't what I'm striving for, but it's just funny to watch. Hopefully. We'll see. Ooh! I got lucky.
Really?
Now, I'm not trying to, again, I don't want it to be a thing where you become hooked to it, because I think I even looked around today, especially at a tech conference, you notice at lunch, my goodness gracious, we're all eating, it's like one food fork, one food hand on the phone. We don't want to be that, because I think there is still that natural connection that needs to be there. A little bit just about myself, because I think it's important whenever you talk to someone. I'm relatively excited that in a couple hours the Cubs are going to be on. I'm glad that I have this session time. I think if I was one later, I don't know if I would make it to my own session at that point, because I think a beer in the game is calling my name. It's a big year for the sports teams though, with the Hawkeyes, even the Bears coming through. That's a picture of my family up there. I'm the principal of Garner Elementary School. Later on, or if you want to at any point in time, I'll reference this later on. This is our hashtag that we have down the corner. It ties into a session I'll be leading tomorrow. If you want to come check that out, I'll put in a shameless plug. We've got one on branding your school, how you brand your school and set that tone for what you want the community talking about, what you want your kids talking about, and those different things. So if you ever want to check out some of the stuff that we do that on Facebook or Twitter, you can check out our hashtag there. And then I just love this quote. A former colleague of mine, she gave me this. We worked together for a number of years, and then we both went on to be principals. And I have this hanging above my door. It's a magnet. And it fits so nicely to this work, I think. We're talking about tech work. Walk with the dreamers, the believers, the courageous, the cheerful, the planners, the doers, the successful people with their heads in the clouds and their feet on the ground. I think it just fits so nicely into this. We have to dream, we have to do great things for kids, but we also have to be able to apply it practically. So hopefully this will be something that can help apply it practically to your work. Another shameless plug, go ahead and follow me, that'd be awesome, just for fun. I know Ramsey, I think he was making fun of people for that, but I'm going to throw it in there. Again, I'm going to reference, there's the hashtag for the conference. If I say anything worthwhile, please go ahead and put it out there. Finest, greatest, best, and then those are just a couple things. I do put my email address on here. I would love to connect with people later on. If you have some questions, I'm more than willing to connect and be a resource for you. So, here's a little bit just about our story, because I think it's always important to know the context of the school, where you come from. Garner Elementary is one of the Iowa City School District schools. We're growing. If you've ever been to North Liberty, Iowa, you know that it is a growing town. We're up to 615 kids. We gained some the other day. We've got 70-some staff members. We just started the SAM program this year. I guess when you break 600 kids, they give you a little bit of help. And just kind of throwing this out, data on the rise. Above expected growth on Iowa assessments. Almost 90% reading, and our current 6th graders are 98% proficient on the dibbles at the start of the year. So just kind of throwing some things out of what we're trying to accomplish. So here's a few stats that I think play to what I'm trying to do with the smartphone and the work we do. Currently, since I'm in the SAM program, they keep track of your time. So about 60% of my day, even in that large building, is spent on instructional matters. I'm the only administrator in the building, okay, so it's just me. I spend less than 10% of my day when the kids are present in my office. That's why I do not spend time in that office. There's no reason. Okay, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that in this. And then able to see every classroom, every staff member each week. Because that's kind of my goal, to get around each and every week. And I'll talk to you about ways you can get there and ways you can get there at specific times and good times during this. So, this is going to be our goal. I love this picture of this little girl. I had to find some way just to use this picture of this little girl. Just because I think it's funny. So let's get out of here. Let's find ways that we can get out of our office. Now during this, because I think we're teachers, and I think we're educators, and we've all sat on our butts quite a while today, so it's important to be able to have some conversation. Find a neighbor, connect with a neighbor, so find somebody. Talk about one way, if you have an office, or if you're aspiring to be a leader, talk about one way you try to get out of that office during your work week. Okay? So find a neighbor, strike up that, introduce one another, say hi, and then have that conversation quick. Hi. I know you, right?
I'm Michael from Bravo.
So Michael was telling us
very useful. I mean, drinking sitting there with my kids. Didn't do it my lifetime. Have a team room in our building. Try and go down there and collaborate with fellow art specialists as much as possible.
last year we think actually started 40 years
Okay, wrap up that conversation about 13 seconds. All right. Now, like anything, good teachers, we always want to say what our learning intentions are, our learning targets, our goals. We have to put those out there. I want us to just explore some tools on your smartphone that allow you to get out of your office. It's going to allow you to be a little more efficient. And then also, let's develop some instructional leadership skills by being in the classrooms. So those are the two things we're going to look at here. How the smartphone can help you, but we're also going to be talking about instruction. Because ultimately, if our work isn't impacting kids, it's probably not worth doing, right? We always have to have that lens. How can we impact kids? How can we impact instruction? What is it that we're doing within our day to help influence what's going on in our classrooms? The role changes when you move into leadership, and we have an opportunity to sometimes talk with Edwin Jarvis, the guy who's working with our district a little bit, and he talks about we're the teachers now of the big kids. That's kind of our conversation. You can still work with the kids, and you're still going to work with the kids. We also have to work with the big kids. We have to be present for that. So let's explore some options here. This is about as low tech. I'm probably only putting text messaging up as a possible app, but I cannot tell you how often this makes my day more efficient. We know every staff member in your school should have your cell phone number. Okay? It just has to be. I think it's just got to be. And then somebody like, what? I don't know about that. I saw some cringes on that one when it came up. Now, here's why. This is a great way of simple communication during your day. And you have to get over a couple mindsets with this. One, first, it's you having access to that. Like, I'm going to check mine. I'm going to check my cell phone. And also, I'm going to feel comfortable with teachers having theirs readily available. So that's two things you've got to ask yourself if you're comfortable with. You've got to be comfortable with the fact that the teachers are going to have their cell phones up at their teaching station. You're not telling them, hey, put that thing away. I had someone shadow me for a day, and she had been a principal for a long time, and she had to shadow me for the program we're a part of. And she's like, it's weird for me that all these cell phones are out. It's a mind shift on that. But I tell you, it's a great way. I get as many text messages from my secretary as I do from my wife. That's just because that's how we communicate during the day. If I'm not in my office, she needs to tell me something. Someone called, someone did something, we need you back down here, whatever it might be. That's how she gets me. It's a quick text. It's a quick way for me to get back. It's a simple solution. Another one is everyone can find you. And sometimes you're like, I don't know if I want everyone to find me. But it's helpful. I think if you've all worked at some point in time, you've had one of those grade levels or one of those classes that's always like, remember when we had that kindergarten group, or when we had that group of juniors, or we had that group of whatever? We had that kindergarten group last year. I mean, I have to paint a picture for you, because one time we had a little guy who had a rough day, we'll call it. He dumped paint and all sorts of stuff everywhere, and there was a later scene of the custodian with a push broom and me with a shovel cleaning up the room, because that was the quickest way to do it, because it was just, So we had that group. The quickest way was they'd shoot me a text like, hey Nick, need you. And off you go. Because right now, I'm sure in your building, you either carry around a giant walkie-talkie, or they buzz the office to buzz this to find you, and you can't get there. Where this can make it, everyone in the building has quick access to you. Really quick access. Now here's the thing I really like though. Because this makes us more efficient. This changes instruction. This is a text message from Wendy. She's one of our teachers. She was doing something in math that she thought was just awesome. She texted me about it. She wanted me to come see it. And I said, on my way. and I didn't get there. It was kind of sad. I was disappointed because I didn't get there. You know, sometimes you just can't. Something came out. I'm going to try to get there. I didn't get there in time. This led to a great conversation. She let me know when they were going to use it next. I was able to be in there and check that out. It gave me a purpose to my next walkthrough, my next opportunity to watch when we teach, watch what the kids were doing. And it then sets the stage for conversations about it. Because if I don't get there, and I didn't get to see it, I can then ask her, hey, I saw you send me that text about what was going on during your lesson. How'd it go? Where's it going next? Did the kids get that understanding you were hoping for? Then, if it does, if I am able to get there, then it can become part of our reflective conversations, and I'll talk to you more about what I try to do when we're in the classroom to give some of that feedback, to give some of those interactions with teachers. But it just sets the stage. Now I know that she's teaching something she's excited about and want to get there. It is so fun to get those text messages during the day, like, hey, get down here and come check this out. Or get down here and do this. Now sometimes it can be proactive, sometimes it just happens in the moment. Sometimes they'll send me a note saying, hey, we're going to be doing this later on and we'd love for you to come through. So this is a way to use text messaging in your day, but like I said, is you've got to be comfortable with it. All these things, I'm not going to sit here and say you have to use them all. Because you have to be able to say, what's your comfort level with these things? Maybe you're like, I don't want everyone to have my cell phone number. This isn't going to work for you then. Or I don't want everyone having their phones out. But it's just something you have to think about and look through as comfort. Social media tells your story. I have a little red question. Whenever you see this little red question, I'll give you a hint. That means I'm going to make you all talk, okay? So, red question, before I talk on this, what's your kind of social media picture at your school? What's your social media picture? What's your story of your school in social media? Go ahead, have that conversation with your neighbor again.
Instagram actually suggested that. I guess like a lot of we have a called our Wolf celebrity active on Twitter, Facebook, there's second ones over Instagram,
Begin to wrap these up in just a minute or two. Not even a minute, a few seconds. How many people in here would consider you to have your school to have a strong social media presence? You got one? Yeah. You feel like you had a pretty strong. So here's the thing that I will tell you about this. Social media tells your story. So you can decide whether you want to be the author or if you want parents to be your authors and the community to be your authors, because they're talking about your school. I think one thing that we talk about, especially as you begin to promote yourself in social media, you have to recognize that you're going to be more of a public figure than you were. So you have to decide, who's going to tell this story? We have a group. My wife's a part. My daughter goes to Garner Elementary. She's a second grader. They have a mama's group of 20, whatever the heck it is. I don't even know whatever year my daughter's going to graduate high school. And it's all these moms that have this group on Facebook. And sometimes it's a beautiful group that are helping each other out, like reminding each other when picture day is. And sometimes they are blasting the heck out of me on it, which is always fun, because then my wife shows me, like, so-and-so doesn't say very nice things about you today, Nick. Awesome, thanks. But anyway, they're telling their story. So you have to decide what your story is going to be. So I'm not going to go into a great amount of detail with this, because again, shameless plug, that's a lot of the message tomorrow when I'm going to do a session on don't shy away from greatness and branding your school. So if this is something you're curious about, come on back. I'd love to talk about it in greater detail with you. I think, personally, this is my own 2 cents, the top 2 every school should have. And I think it's something as a leader, as an educator, those are something you should look at having too. And I'll talk more about Twitter later on how it's just a professional resource. You've probably seen examples of it throughout this time. Those top two, you should have school accounts. If you check out our hashtag that I put up there before, the finest, greatest, best, it's on our water bottle, it's on all over the place. You can kind of get a sample of what we put out there at Garner Elementary. But we want to tell the story. We want to be the authors of that story. We want our teachers to be able to post pictures. We want people in the school to share the great things that are going on. You want to be able to brag about yourselves. I think far too often in schools, we're too humble for our own good. We don't want to brag about the great things that are going on. So we need to have those. Instagram, I think, is dependent on your grades and levels. Now, if you're dealing with high school kids and older kids, I think that's a very valuable one to look into. We use it primarily just to edit stuff. I'm toying with adding it in because I've noticed a lot of our we go through 6th grade, a lot of our 5th and 6th graders are more apt to have Instagram accounts because I don't think it has the age requirement. And then Pick Stitch, that isn't for quilting or anything else. It's actually just a really quick thing to put a bunch of pictures in one picture frame. So then you can send it out, like when you send it out on Twitter, you send it out on Facebook, you can get 6 images on one square, or you can get, a bunch. I do that more often because, for me personally, like you get that, I don't know about you, but you get that Facebook album that has like 20-some pictures, you look at the first 2 that are up there, and you're like, yeah, I'm good. So this is a way you can get a bunch of pictures out right away. I think there's other ones we were talking about here in a side conversation. Or on Twitter, this is a great way to get a number of them out because you can only typically post the one without eating up a bunch. So Pick Stitch, quick little app to use. You just drag them on in there. You just drag and drop into the layout you want. It's really slick. We use it quite a bit to kind of tell our story in our school. So what it does then with our smartphone and doing that is it just becomes part of a parent's normal day. As we talk about needing to have a strong social media presence, using our smartphone is going to make for us part of their day. I think the more times a parent has to click to get the information, the less likely they are to get the information. Operate on a one-click rule. If it can be one click away, you're probably all right. If it's more than one click, chances are each click, I think, decreases the number of people who are going to get to it. So however you send it out, whether you're sending stuff out in email, you're sending stuff out in text, because there's all those text reminder things, you're sending things out, Facebook, Twitter, whatever you're using, have that one-click rule. Because the more times and how often do you tell someone, hey, go check it out on our website? That's never going to, and they're not going to get to it. You got to have a one-click rule. Make it so that it's so easy that it's part of the normal day. So as they're standing in line or as they're driving down the road drinking their coffee, because that's really safe, they're able to get to everything in one quick click. I like this one. Does anyone have an inbox that looks like that? I put this picture in there because we have like one of the teachers that came with us today to the conference. She's one of those zero inbox people. You've heard she's like obsessive about it. And this picture I think even bothers her just to see that. But I think it's just a reminder for us. I make a conscious effort, unless it is an email that I have to put in great thought because I'm having to be very specific about how I'm going to respond to that individual. I don't do any of them in my office. That's just, it works everywhere else. We have all those things in our pocket. We have all these devices we can carry around. And again, it just changes. Part of this too is you got to think about the culture within your building too. There's many times I'll just grab a chair in a classroom and I'll just hang out. I'll get stuff done, but it just changes where you're at. And teachers are used to that from me and being in their rooms, and they enjoy it. And you can interact with kids. You can hear the conversation that's going on. You can set it off to the side and go help out with something or go have that conversation. The email works in both locations. Those are some of our kids. Those green chairs, by the way, are super awesome. They're fun to play on. The kids love them. But the email works in both locations. And we actually use it as an educational, as a leadership tool. Kind of a general rule, besides I have 2 rules with email. One, I don't want to do it in my office because I think that it's not a good use of time. When the kids are there, we always have to think about when kids are here, how can I maximize that time? When kids are here, how can you maximize that time? There's other times of the day where you just hunker down and you get some work done. Or you do it later at night because we all, no one's going home with no work to do later at night. Email, but the other rule I operate off of with email is when I go into a classroom and I'm spending any significant time there, even if just for a little bit, I want to provide them with some feedback. It's a great way to compliment people. There's nothing better. I mean, how many people, I guarantee, everyone has this in their folders. You know how you make folders in your email? Everyone has one of those where you get that nice email, whether it be from a parent, whether it be, it's always nice to send. You can send something. Hey, I love being in your room today. That was some of the coolest stuff. Whatever it might be. Give them that positive feedback. And then also the last one is reflective dialogue and conversations or questions. We have to set the stage for this. One of the things at Garner that we talk about is, if I come into your room for an extended period of time, I'm going to send you a question most likely. And a lot of times it might be me just being curious. It might be me just wondering what it looks like, or wanting more information on what's going to happen next, and I'm probably not going to be able to see it. I had a conversation with a kindergarten teacher the other day. They were spelling out words, or they're working through their word sounds, and they had more than one letter in a box. So I asked her a question about, well, how do the kids, are they able to identify that second letter is there in the box, that beginning reading? How do they know that second letter is there? And she was able to respond and give me this great answer. It became this nice dialogue just quickly through email. I got it over the weekend. She responded to me. We were able to dialogue back and forth. Having those reflective questions. A lot of times you'll go around, and I think they probably have a bunch of tools here of, you can get this software, or this app, or this, that, and the other for all your walkthroughs. To me, a simple email with a reflective question is more powerful than any of those other things, unless you're going to be collecting data that you have to. Otherwise, a great reflective question can really help out and prompt some great discussions and great dialogue, or even set the stage for you coming back into that room. We got the little red question mark. Talk about, have you, or how could you, use this email for instructional leadership within your building? Go ahead.
And that was my goal this year. Kind of like when my parents had to start this year. So I want to. And I will.
To find that time to commit to it. It's also finding that determines those three. It's also taking the time to write questions, answers.
She'll send out an email with
See, I am too.
email it back about time frame for the 6 month time.
Any ideas floating about? I always like to learn too. And these is there's some things that people have done or they're using, whether it be email or something else when you're in the classroom that helps out that instructional leadership. Want to share? Anybody? Nobody wants to share when they're in a session.
Yeah.
Anybody? Just to add to this, I think this becomes, if you set the stage for it in your school, there's a few things that can happen with it. One, it becomes a great way to track where you've been and how often you've been places. Another good thing is to see who's following up with you on your questions and who's not. So if you want to have that conversation or you want to talk to them later on, you can always go back and ask about it. And then two, I think once you set it up as part of your routine, they begin to wonder. I've been in rooms like, hey, you didn't send me anything. I didn't get anything. Because teachers love to have that conversation, that feedback, that dialogue. I mean, if we just go in there as leaders and we're just sitting in the room, and we're not providing some level of feedback or some level of conversation, then it loses its value. You just changed your workspace. So we want to be able to give that opportunity to share within it. How many of you use Google Drive for a lot of stuff? Do you have this on your phone? I see a lot of hands coming up here. I see some. This one I think is critical. If you're looking into things as a leader to be able to use it, is having all of that readily available on your phone and making sure that your critical documents are there. You know, we have access to all our schedules, all the teacher schedules, pretty much everything that you could need in a given day is right there in that app. And I think that's an important one for schools to look at, is having their things, using Google Docs to be able to put it into, you know, Drive, so you have access and organized within your phone. So as you're going around, you can see a lot of things. You know, this is another way, if you don't have a software for it to keep track of where you're going, you can maintain a little spreadsheet as to where you're going, what classrooms you're visiting, who you're seeing on a daily basis. So really looking at Google Drive as a way to access everything. Down there again, little question mark. For those of you who are using it frequently, share some of the things that you think are critical to have on there. If you're not using it, maybe ask your neighbor a question. What's some of the stuff you put on there? What are some things that can be helpful for this? So go ahead, chat a little bit some more.
Sure.
What we do, all of our building documents. So we have homework, call it advancing sessions. So on Monday and Thursday, it's like they all go to work in the same common area, and on Tuesday and Friday, it's called Hogan. So when it's out for additional support, so that's good for them. We'll pull our kids out through that, which is our common spreadsheet. A lot of our behavior ratings, things like that, I use it a lot. So every week we have behavior ratings based upon their just behavior choices, positive versus not positive. Where that kind of comes into play is like incentives, like field trips, like stuff like that. We have what's called our wolf pack, which is like our leadership. The idea with that is things are most surveys, determine whether they're wolf pack field trip, it's just a way to kind of check that. Their behaviors to as what do you think you are and why, and just
I think with this, and I was having a side conversation here, a lot of times with this, it isn't so much about the device. Yeah, you can access it on your smartphone, but a lot of us, I mean, anymore is Chromebooks and iPads and different things. We're carrying those things around with us all the time. It's just really getting to a point where you have those critical documents easily accessible. You know, so that way you can really, as a leader, time out, like, I know when I'm going into this classroom, I want to see this subject. We have new math materials. I want to see what those look like in different grade levels. So I want to be, when I'm out and about using my time, I want to try to hit, hey, when are they teaching math? I need to go see. I haven't seen third grade teaching math. I need to know those things. And having it all in a Google spreadsheet that you can flip through, you can find all those things relatively quickly and be very strategic about where you're going, when you're going, and using your time well. Because I think we've all had those times where you go into the classroom and you know you just hit that transition and they're going off to specials or they're going, the bell's ringing or whatever it might be. So you want to be able to hit it at those critical times, those things that, with the information you want to see. I hear a piano playing in the hallway. This is a quick one, a little Genius Scan. If you ever want to turn something into a PDF, that's a nice quick little thing. You can upload it to your Google Docs and such. A little piece of paper, take a snapshot of it, Genius Scan. That's a fun one. Now here again, I might test some of your comfort zones with your smartphone. Some of you might really feel like you don't want it to be touched by anyone else, so that can change things. But in elementary school, sometimes it can be a very handy tool. Sand timer app, that's one of my favorite ones. I started using this with my son. My son is going on 4, and he would want us to always lay in bed with him. He'd like us to lay in bed for a little bit before he fell asleep. But he would be a fan of, he'd let us lay there forever. So we started setting the sand timer app. Like, all right, buddy, you get the choice. 1, 2, or 3 minutes, that's all you get. Well, the same thing applies with kids then. A lot of times when you have that really frustrated kid in your building, it's amazing when you set, like, there's all sorts of fun timer apps that you can just download, and they get to watch something move, and you tell them, hey, I'm going to give you 2 minutes. When this 2 minutes is done, then we're going to talk about this, or I need you to answer this for me. I've got one guy, he's a 6th grader. He is tougher than tough, but you give him, set that timer, you can set that expectation, I don't say anything then. Timer gets done, and then we can have a conversation. It just sets a simple stage there. Google Images, that's a surprisingly fun way to reward a kid for getting things done. We had a little guy who thought he was Spider-Man. He did. He thought he was Spider-Man. He'd shoot webs. It was fun to watch. But so we had a first then plan with him. First you get this done, then you get to do a preferred task. I could get him to do about anything if I let him get his assignment done and then look for Spider-Man on my phone. That was just the oddest thing, but he would get those 6 problems done, then you can look at Spider-Man. One picture only, and he'd look up Spider-Man, install Spider-Man, he'd pick the one he wanted to look at it. Okay, now do something else. It was the oddest thing, but just knowing those little things for kids, those little tricks, finding things that they're excited about. Same thing with games. You put some games on your phone, hand them over, and then those of us who have to make decisions about indoor, outdoor dismissal, games that are going on, all those different things. Good old weather bug. Now I'm bringing this back up, because before, on your smartphone, I talked about how Twitter is a way to communicate out. But it's also a great way to learn while we're sitting in classes. I think you can be a learner and a reader throughout the day. There's constantly times where you can be learning and reading and finding good articles. You can quickly find resources related to your instruction. The last session I was at, Aaron Maurer, he was talking over here, he was talking about your favorites list in Twitter, using that favorites list. That's one of my favorite places to stockpile resources, is favoriting, because then when I'm in a classroom and I might see something that I was really like, oh yeah, that connected with, I'll scroll back through that favorites list and I can email that tweet onto them and begin that conversation. So you can use this while you're in a classroom. Now again, you're looking at comfort level, because some people are like, well, I can't be on social media while I'm in a classroom. I don't know about that, especially as you're working with bigger kids. I don't want one of the high school kids to see that I'm on my Twitter account, or I'm on my Facebook account, or I'm on some account while I'm in the classroom. That doesn't look right. So again, you have to look at your comfort level with these different things. But it's a great way to get those resources out, find the instruction, using that favorite list, sharing things that you're able to find through your professional learning network that maybe that teacher doesn't have the same access to. And you get a chance to connect with people all over. So if you're not into Twitter, I think it's just, some of you who, I have a slide up there where it's that little blue bird on your screen. Really explore getting into that and seeing what's out there. Even if you don't plan on posting yourself, maybe that's not your comfort level, but getting those things out there that you can then use it as a resource, use it as a way to get new information. I think this is probably one of the most important slides. Plus it has Hulk Hogan on it, so that's really fun. And how much better can you do than you have your last slide have Hulk Hogan? I mean, that's just great. I think the most important part about this, when you really boil down to it, is you get back to that earlier point of make it your critical mission not to be in your office. Because people want to see you out and about. People need to see you out and about. Teachers appreciate it. Kids appreciate it. It can change the culture and climate in your building. Okay? When I have the opportunity to share tomorrow, we'll talk about how branding and making that vision and mission within your school come to life, because that's going to start to influence student achievement. If you can't see how your vision and mission of your school is coming to life in your building, if you're not out to see that and make that happen, then it's not going to move the way you need it to move. Okay? I'm not saying it has to be that kind of dictatorship that you're the one pushing the whole thing along, but you need to be out there having that conversation, being a part of that work, sharing those opportunities with your staff, okay? I didn't put any tech stuff in here that's mind-blowing, like these are crazy apps that are very difficult, or some of the cool tools you'll get to see through the course of today or that you saw later on. But it's really changing that mindset. Well, think about your comfort level within some of this stuff. Are you all right with teachers having their devices out? Are you all right with yourself sitting there in a classroom with your smartphone out, seeing that you were just mentioned in a tweet? Okay? Are you okay with doing that and changing that kind of culture within your school? Because I think it's important as leaders, and this is what kind of where this is directed to. It's important as leaders to make it that conscious effort. If we can do the work somewhere else in the school, do the work somewhere else in the school. And I think that means just ask yourself, as you're sitting, if you're in your desk, if you're in your office, wherever it is, can I be doing this somewhere else? Do I need to be right here? And there's some tricks in there. I think some of the text messaging stuff, some of the other really helps you along the way. I think we're a little bit, we have just about 5 minutes left here, and I wanted to leave a little time. If there's anyone who has any quick questions related to this, is a great closing piece there, the questions. Yeah.
Will this work in the secondary school environment?
Absolutely.
It seems, to me, it just seems a little, I mean, for an elementary school, it seems perfect. Your teachers probably already have a smartphone, so do you. But at the secondary level, it's like all your students are going to be, you know, hey, the principal's walking around with his smartphone out, sitting there tweeting, the teachers are responding and other things like that. I mean, do you just have to set some rules for the students that they can't be doing? I mean, or does the teacher have to do that?
Well, I think it's still, it comes back to what you're, personally, if I don't have a comfort level of teachers having it out, a comfort level of myself having it out, I probably have a pretty high comfort level of kids using their devices too. It's just, now it's teaching about that digital citizenship and what it looks like. Before I was an elementary principal, I was a 7-9 assistant principal. So I worked in a 7-9 building with 1,200 kids, and we had 80 some odd teachers. And we use some of these, not to the same degree, but we use a lot of these same things with the email and being out and about and kind of starting, because I was in the beginning of branding. So it does look a little different, but I think, you know, and how much, I can see your point in what, you know, we don't have, but our 5th and 6th grade a lot of phones. So, yeah. But I don't, so it's just, I can see that with, I think it's just setting the stage. What is your expectation of use within the building too? And it just becomes part of, you know, I think anything, technology is as useful as the pencil.
It's like, I got a high school full of kids who are all on, they probably downloaded Twitter or Snapchat or whatever for their devices, because you know, we allow stuff in the App Store. So they're already using it. So again.
So now you have to shift it to how can you use it in an educational benefit.
We work in a high school that's one-to-one, and ours all goes back to teacher discretion. You know, they get time during the day where they can have it without guidelines, so passing and lunchtime. But during classroom instruction, to Kurt or to answer that question, is it's primarily teacher discretion on when you can use your phone for free access. I mean, they'll use it for Kahoot, they'll use it for those kind of things too, but.
It's a great timer. We use it for timers, like for, even in elementary school, some of our bigger kids are working on fluency goals. Instead of buying a bunch of timers, get your phone, set it for a minute. It just changed, you have to be comfortable again, but it saved us, you know, a bunch of money on timers, which get broken. You know.
Most of our communication with our students is through Twitter. I mean, we use our email system, but we have a student account, and we encourage our kids to do hashtag Vet Pride, see what's going on in the building. And there are moments we've got to bring some kids in and meet them, but they're few compared to the great stuff you see out there. So.
Absolutely. Well, I hear a lot of people moving on, so I don't want to hold you anymore. If you have any questions, feel free to connect with me on Twitter, connect with me on email. Thank you so much for coming. I really enjoyed sharing with you today.
Thank you.